For today's episode, we have a special guest host, Jamele Wright Sr. I did a proper bio and intro for him in the previous episode, so please go back and listen to part 1 if you haven't yet, and that's where you'll learn all about Jamele. He's just somebody that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. I've learned so much from him. I've really gotten to know him over the last few years here, and just grateful to call him a mentor and a friend. So with that, hope you enjoy part 2 of our Jack Whitten episode with Jamele Wright Sr. This is after he had made a very intentional choice to remove all gesture from his work. You know, he realized how heavily influenced he was by de Kooning specifically, and now he wanted to. And he speaks about this in this interview. But he said, I realized, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, I realized that I was making the same sort of repetitive marks that were all within that ABEX, school of thought. And he wanted to remove that. So in the context of this particular excerpt, paint is the vehicle. I am the medium, not the brush. He pretty much set the brush aside completely.
Right.
Going forward. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I would say when we talk about him being a painter, I think he even went beyond painting. I think he became more of a mechanic or more of a carpenter, more of a maker, scientist.
Yeah.
Where he's breaking down the element itself. He's breaking down the material itself. And then as he goes further on, he starts talking about how, can you break it? Can you break paint? Can you scrape paint?
Yeah.
What can you do to this substance? And how can I still use it in that way?
He turned acrylic paint into glass.
Right.
Having had a chance to see some of that work in person, it was hilarious. I was there with my daughter. I remember looking at one of those pieces where it's transparent. It looks like glass. And I remember a couple of other visitors were looking, and they were talking amongst themselves. And one said to the other, "That's glass, right?" "Oh yeah, it's got to be." And then they'd look at the title. It says acrylic.
Right.
I'm sure it's glass, and I
right.
got a chance to offer my
right.
But it was
your expert opinion.
Yeah, my but it was a fun conversation, but real alchemy,
Yes,
alchemy.
That takes a lot of time in the studio, like we were saying before. Trying to figure out like how to make this thing,
and that's what we've talked about this earlier in previous conversations, but just that's why he's on my Mount Rushmore, is just the number of times, numerous times throughout his career, he could have arrived and just hung out for the duration of his career.
Right.
And made tremendous work, probably, definitely. But he kept seeking, he kept pushing forward. Just like you said it. Okay, I did that. Now I want to do this.
Right. Do this.
Yeah. Page 71. You had wanted to discuss the following. The problem I'm having with abstract paintings cannot be landscape. At least that's what the tradition of the New York school says. Consequently, I've had to introduce certain devices to combat this tendency. My incorporation of the border edge was about this. Now I am utilizing straight directional lines within the plane with no attempt to divide the total picture plane in no manner. I want a flat, continuous surface plane trapping forms in space, a natural space. I read more than you had underlined there, but...
No, that's fine. That's fine. But, what's interesting is when you read what he's doing versus when you see what he's doing, that becomes abstract itself, right? Like the part where he's talking about making the paint itself. Yeah, I'm kind of in the phase of landscape. So I know that abstraction cannot be a thing at all, but we're also talking about that's why some of his paintings were in portrait mode as far as opposed to horizontal. They were vertical. So he could alleviate the idea of the landscape.
Well, that just goes back to our primal wiring for reading the horizon.
Right.
Almost anything horizontal could be read as a horizon.
Exactly. And if he would have done those paintings horizontally, they would look completely different than they do vertically.
Mm-hmm.
They would read completely different.
Yeah, you talked.
I think that's why, when you look at someone like Rothko, even Rothko had to shift from everything being horizontal to creating those bars in there that were vertical.
Yeah.
But those bars begin to look like doorways,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to looking like a sunset or sunrise. I always think Rothko to me always feels like those spaghetti westerns. I always see like the spaghetti westerns in those. Like I always feel like Clint Eastwood is going to come out and be like, like, I mean, they're beautiful and they cause you to levitate at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm being funny, I see them as spaghetti westerns.
You talk about the horizon. Back to that Abex New York school, Clifford Still. One of the things I love about his work is the verticality of his lifeline. I mean, that's one of the things that I don't know if I ever made a conscious choice to do this, but I'm inherently drawn to more verticality always than the horizontal line, and I can't really say why specifically, but
oddly enough, that's actually what I'm kind of dissecting. Is this idea that like how the horizon has changed for us because of cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
That now, because of cell phones, everything's in portrait mode.
Yeah.
So everything's vertical.
Yeah.
So the horizon has now been shifted because of the cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
So these traditions are leaving us. Clifford Stills, interesting story about Clifford Stills. So when I was in grad school and I was in my final, I was heading towards my last semester.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just done open studios.
Yeah.
And I took my paintings and I put them in the corner. I had painted the whole studio. I had some paintings on the floor. I was just trying to figure out like what these paintings were supposed to do because of them being textile. And grad school is this time where you're using, as I call them now, gimmicks, like trying to think of different ways for your paintings to look good. But I didn't like it. It just didn't feel good to me. I couldn't figure out like why I didn't like it. So I had a studio visit. I did that studio visit. And then after that, I had some time. And because of where SVA is, I am maybe about 7 blocks away from the Whitney. I'm 4 blocks away from Chelsea. So I just walked down to the Whitney to just go look around. It was close. And I was just really frustrated in my studio. So I go to the Whitney, and they also gave us we had free passes to the Whitney. So we have free passes to the MoMA and to the Whitney. Going to grad school at 46 years old was probably one of my greatest gift I ever gave myself.
Really?
Yeah, because for a number of reasons, but mostly it was because if I would have been 25, 30, I wouldn't have known what I was doing in New York, But being 45, 46, 47, then I knew exactly why I was there. I was on a mission, right? Mm-hmm. So I went to the Whitney. I get up to, I think it's the 8th floor where they have their American collection, Mm-hmm. I remember this as clear as day. I got off the elevator. I turned right because there's this big wall there. And then I turned left. And right when I turned left, I saw 10 by 10 foot Clifford Stills. And it was as if the angels were behind me going, oh, right? Yeah. And the harp was playing, and the sun came and shot through the gallery and was spotlighted on me and Clifford Stills, and we were engaged.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I now know everything that's wrong with my paintings.
Really?
Yes. It was just that quick. Seeing that Clifford Stills painting, it was just that quick.
Hmm.
And you know what? It was very simple. I painted the walls in my studio. I did all this stuff. I took all those paintings, I put them in corners, all that stuff, all that stuff, all that stuff. Clifford Still's 10 by 10 painting was on white walls, square.
Mm-hmm.
No gimmicks, no putting it in the corner, no putting it on the floor, just a plain white wall.
Hmm.
Because the painting was enough. It didn't need anything else. The painting was enough. And after that moment, oh my God, dude. I had one more studio visit to do with my mentor. And after that, I tore into my studio.
Hmm.
I painted everything white. I reconstructed everything. And then I started figuring out how to create that same effect as that Clifford Still's painting.
Hmm.
And the key of that is, let the painting be what it's going to be. So often we're trying to force it to be this thing, and we're putting it. And sure, it's innovative to see some works in corners, and it's innovative to see those things, and sometimes it works.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes a painting is a painting, like Clement Greensburg said, "Paint is paint, surface is surface."
Mm-hmm.
A sculpture is a sculpture, a relief is a relief. Like sometimes all the gimmicks don't make it any better. Sometimes it just is. And as we're talking about this directness, right? Sometimes that's just what it is. Hit that thing and let it go. Sometimes, like when people say, I messed up this painting, I kept trying to work it and work it and work it.
Mm-hmm.
And leave that thing alone. Start over.
Yeah.
You learn the lesson from it. Go to the next one.
Right. Have you had a chance to visit the Clifford Still Museum in Denver by chance?
I have not. I did apply for the residency twice, though.
It is unlike any other museum in the world,
I can
because
imagine.
they own it's an astounding percentage. It's like 91% of the work that he ever made
right
is in their permanent collection. It's a fascinating
Yeah.
story. I mean, he wrote it. You talk about bold and audacity. He wrote it into his will that with very specific instructions that his late wife and widow spent the better part of a decade attempting to execute to find the right place for it. But anyway, it's incredible. I've had a chance. I've had a couple shows there.
Really?
In Denver, yeah. But while there, I've had a chance to visit the museum probably 4 times now, and every time they turn over the entire collection. I think it's 3 times a year. So I don't think I've ever seen the same piece twice.
Oh wow,
it's tremendous. Yeah, we actually the Clifford Still episode that Ty and I did, we recorded when I was I got a chance to get connected with the space there, and they were kind enough to let me record from the space.
That's great.
Interesting. Yeah. And, speaking of Rothko, the relationship that's still a very complicated relationship between Rothko and Still. It's really, yeah, look it up. It's fascinating. They had a close friendship at one point, and then not later on for a variety of reasons. You've used that word gimmick, Jamele, a couple of times. I'm interested. How do you define gimmick in the context of art?
I sometimes okay, now you're gonna get me in trouble. So I sometimes believe that adding the figure in a painting is a gimmick. I think sometimes we recognize gimmicks. Sometimes an abstraction is great as an abstraction, and then the artist doesn't feel as confident about the work, so they put in a figure. It was good as a sunset, bro. Just leave it alone. Right? You put this, you added. We could tell you added these things in later. Then leave it alone. Let it be. So I think gimmicks are these things that happen, and it's not just the figure, but I think that sometimes there's things that people do to a painting because they're not as confident. They want people to like it, or they will try something that causes the viewer to not see that the painting is not good.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes put in a corner, they're able to cover up the spot that wasn't that great.
Yeah.
Sometimes put it on the floor escapes us from we're not allowed to look at it as a wall painting anymore.
Sure.
Putting it over a ball, we no longer are investigating the work as a painting. Like Elizabeth Murray was really good at making these paintings that kind of appear as sculptures,
Mm-hmm.
but they're really paintings.
Sure.
Because she's more interested in the painting. She's just creating the form that the painting is on.
Right.
But she's not a sculptor.
Yeah.
So like there's these things that people are doing. They use these little tricks to kind of like get us to not look at what they're doing. And then what happens is, I don't know, I start seeing it as the artist is trying to seduce me. and then when I start feeling seduced, I kind of go, I don't really know. I like that.
What are you selling?
Right. What are you selling? What are you selling?
Yeah.
Because, and then after a while, I started, oh, okay, well, they didn't like this part of the painting. Mm-hmm. So then they tried to distract me on this side of the painting by putting something over here that I would like this and not pay attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
So gimmicks are, I don't know, gimmicks kind of irritate me a little bit.
When you're in the studio, is that something that you are consciously or subconsciously wary of within your own work?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah,
very much so. I'm very much of like in my practice, and that's why I feel like I'm having a conversation with Jack Whitten in this book, and that's why sometimes I have to put it down because sometimes he's chewing me up a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to make the Jamele Wright painting.
Yeah.
I want the Jamele Wright painting to be the center. Like when you look at painting, you'll go, that is a Jamele Wright painting.
Yeah.
That is not intrinsically connected to these other things. Mm-hmm. That it's all those things boiled down and then turned into a sauce.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. That is drizzled upon something, but not the entirety of. Yeah. Because, I mean, after 2,000 years of painting, it's impossible for us not to pull back those ideas, right? And that's what's great about abstraction. Abstraction, in the scheme of painting, is incredibly young. There's still new places to explore. There's still new things to experiment with. There's still new ideas to be had.
Yeah.
So I'm very conscious of if I think that if someone comes to my studio and says, "Oh, that looks like a cat right there," and I just go to the paint and I just erase the whole thing. I just cover it. If someone says, "Oh, that part right there is really beautiful," I just go and I just paint over it. Because it's not the section that has to be beautiful. It's the totality of the painting that has to be beautiful. Mm-hmm. And if you get cornered if you get into this one spot, what happens sometimes is people will find one beautiful part of the painting and then they spend the whole rest of the painting trying to make that part as beautiful as that, and it never works.
Right.
So then you end up sacrificing the whole painting because you want people to see this one part. Cut it out. Cut that part out, sew it to something else. Mm-hmm. Or paint over it.
Yeah.
I get in a lot of trouble for my opinions.
I love it.
I get in a lot of trouble. People ask me for critiques sometimes. I just go, man, you don't really want my critique, man. Leave me alone. Just come on the studio. We'll talk. I don't want to give you a critique.
I've been trying to work up the courage to ask you for a critique at some point. I'm just
oh, brother, you're good. Let me tell you something.
I need more therapy.
Let me tell you something. Me talking to you is me engaging with you on a consistent basis. I really appreciate your work. I think you're a very talented guy.
Thank you.
That
means a lot.
I really like your work. And that's the reason why I had these conversations with you. That's why I suggested the book to you, because I think that there's a lot of good stuff there.
Page 86. I really appreciate that. Page 86. I take my cue from nature. Even with color, I take my cue from nature, i.e., presenting an all-over tonal range with occasional patches of hue. I want to put the fear of God in these paintings. I want to evoke a spiritual, magical, cosmic existence with a material connection, emotionally charged.
Yes. How do you take that?
It's interesting. So I did a solo episode actually, on this book, and I spoke about this quote specifically a lot. This is one of my favorites from the book. Spiritual, magical, cosmic. I mean, Jack was obsessed with the cosmic,
He was.
The material connection, emotionally charged. At the risk of talking about my own work here, what that does for me is it connects. So you mentioned something before about just like when you read Jack's words, you're like, oh, thank you. All right, I'm on the right track. It's not just me,
Right.
Because I really, especially with the relationship that I set out to build with all of the different materials, that I work with, it really is that emotional and sort of spiritual connection to the inanimate, and trying to animate it into a soulful, a collection,
right,
a holistic work that does have that, that emotional charge. I mean, you talk about ambition. I want to put the fear of God in these paintings. It doesn't get much more ambitious than that.
Yeah. I think we all want that, though. I think that like when we done painting, we want to set the world on fire,
Mm-hmm.
We want to, I mean, I will say it out loud. I want when artists come to the studio or come to the gallery that I'm showing in, I want them to go home questioning their own existence. I mean, I've done it a number of times. I saw Jenny Seville in person. I questioned, why did I even go to art school? Like, why am I doing that?
Yeah.
Why did I pick up a paintbrush? I look at Twombly. Like, what am I supposed to be doing here?
Right.
Like, maybe I need to go back to waiting tables. Like, there's some of these painters you look at and you just go, like, why am I here?
What's the point?
There's very few painters I look at and go, well, no, not very few, but there's, like when I talk about Michi Miko being one of the greatest painters alive right now,
mm-hmm.
He makes me believe that I can become a great painter too.
Mm.
But when I look at Rothko, sometimes I go, I have so much work to do. And maybe that's because Michi is my peer.
Sure.
But some of these guys, like have you ever seen like Cy Twombly's just scribbles on a chalkboard?
Mm-hmm.
I saw them at the Gagosian and I walked right past them, right? Mm-hmm. I really didn't pay attention, but the more and more I think about that exhibition, the more and more I think about like how many times he did this over and over again.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not the fact that you are looking at the scribble as much as you think about the repetitive nature of doing this over and over again. Right. And what he had to do over and over again to get that. And how his arm had to move, how his hand had to move, how the chalk basically like disappeared in his hand. Like all these things are happening as he's doing that. That's the kind of stuff that's like fear of God. Like you kind of, and you think about audacity for him to do it over and over and over again. And There was hundreds of them. Like you would go from room to room, and you basically think that you look at the same thing, but it's not. Yeah. It's him on every single one doing this. Mm-hmm. So we ask, like, what is the purpose of that?
Right.
But then someone will say to you, how long did it take for you to make that? Well, I did 100 of these.
Yeah.
And then that way, when I did those huge, when Twombly does those huge, like ones that look like roses, you understand that he had practiced so much with his arm. He knew exactly what his arm was going to do.
Yeah.
From small to large to larger. I mean, that's practice. Practice in the same way that a lawyer practices law and a doctor practices medicine. Same thing.
Yeah.
And then like the idea of Jack Whitten taking his cue from nature. I mean, nature is where everything is.
Yeah.
That's where color is. That's where line is. That's where form is. That's where texture is. That's where shape is. I mean, all of that stuff is in nature. What you're then doing is trying to create something by bending nature in your studio. How do you take nature and put it on a two-dimensional surface? How do you take nature and put it in a three-dimensional surface? Like, how do you recreate that?
Talking about Psy, we spoke with this the other day on the phone, but when I was in Munich earlier this year, it's at the Museum Brandhorst in Munich. They've got Psy's Lepanto cycle. It is a monumental room and 12 work series. That was the room. This whole wing of the museum was built for this work, or the work was made for the space. I can't recall which. But you walk in, and it's a visceral reaction. It's right. Like I don't even know how to exist in this space.
Right.
You forget what to do with your body.
Right.
You know, and it's that type of experience. I had the same experience, you know, at when viewing The Messenger. Thankfully, I was with the one member of my family, our youngest daughter, who could hang with me and camp out, you know, for a while. But the experience of walking away from that. I mean, I don't know about you, Jamele, but after an experience like that, I feel so simultaneously charged and absolutely drained. Like I need a nap. I can't do anything after this. You know what I mean?
I have to admit that there are times I've left galleries I'm turned on. Mm-hmm. Like I'm like my body is tingling.
Yeah.
After leaving some artworks. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes when I was in grad school, I would just jump on the train and head to the MoMA and just go see work. But I would also go, there was a collection, their in-house collection, and I would go see Rousseau, I would go see Matisse, I would go see Pollock, I would go see Pollock, Picasso. Picasso was able to do something that I don't think people, like, I know that people, you know, we get tired of hearing Picasso, but what's really interesting is he knew how to put enough paint on his brush that if he created a line, he could create a perfectly straight line. Mm-hmm. His lines were impeccable. And that's what it is. It's like when we're looking at these painters, we look at these artists, we're gathering like all these little bits of things here and there. Like Picasso could really draw too. I mean, he could draw. There's all these things, and like people say, well, this artist is problematic for this, or this is problematic for this. I'm like, yeah, okay. Let's put in context where they were, how they were living, and even when we talk about Jack Whitten in context, I'll get to that in a second. But it's all these little things that we collect as artists and then say, I need to think about that one more. How do I how do I make that perfect line?
Yeah.
How do I make my line have that same effect?
Mm-hmm.
That when someone looks up close at it 100 years from now, they'll go, "Woo! He did that line right there.
Yeah.
That line is scary." You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the thing is, you were talking about Jack Whitten talking about the cosmos, and we have to remember that during that time, America was going to outer space.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a movement that was beginning during that time where there was groups like Funkadelic, Earth, Wind and Fire, Sun Ra. There was this Afro futurist movement that was going on at that time too. So everyone during that time was kind of interested in this kind of black future, but America was interested in this outer space. Was it, there was the Jetsons. There was like, like there's this idea of like, what does the future hold for us?
Right.
We've gone to outer space. What does the future hold for us?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of money put in the space program during that time, but mostly it was like, what does the future hold? So for him to say cosmos and then spiritual, he's really talking about wanting the viewer to actually feel the paintings.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He didn't have like cell phones back then, so he didn't know that people were just gonna walk past his painting, take a picture, and keep on walking.
Right.
His hope, like your and my hope, is that they are so compelled
Mm-hmm.
when they walk past our painting that they have to sit in front of it.
Yeah.
That they cannot just take a picture and keep on walking. That they'll never look at again. They're never gonna look at the picture again.
No. Mm-hmm.
But they'll walk past the painting of one of ours and they'll stop and go, "Why isn't there a chair right here in front of this painting?" So I think that's what he was. That fear of God. Yeah, I know that feeling. You get done with a painting, you're like, "Woo!" That was it. That was it right there.
Yeah.
We often, when I was in high school, we used to talk about wrestlers, and we used to talk about the Nature Boy. Woo! Let me tell you something, Mama.
He's one of ours, Minnesota boy.
Yeah. Woo! I every now and again, like maybe about 2 or 3 times a year, I'll go through. I'll go back and find my. I got a Rolex watch. I flew in on a jet. I came here by limousine, and I'm having a hard time keeping these alligators down. Like that kind of bravado.
Yeah.
After you're done with a body of work and you did that thing, I'll be watching those for like 2 or 3 days after and going, "Woo! I did that. Yeah,
I love that you brought professional wrestling into the mix, because that is the definition of a gimmick. If as they're sort of curating, their sort of persona, are they going to be a heel? It's what's going to be your gimmick?
Right.
There's your identity.
What's going to be the thing that links in?
Yeah,
and I think in art making, the gimmick, the branding, those kind of ideas actually combat the humanness that we're trying to express.
Mm-hmm.
And the gimmick kind of makes you, like, sometimes when people look at my paintings on photographs, they'll go, "Oh, that's nice." But then when they see it in person, they're like, "I had no idea it was going to have this effect on me."
Right.
Social media would tell us it needs to look good on social media.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that becomes the gimmick. I think the humanness comes when you see the piece in person and you go, "I had no idea." Like, look at that curve. Look at that line. Look at that. Oh, I can see that gesture there. Oh, I couldn't see that paint in that place online, or I couldn't see this pattern online. I didn't see that drape online. Like there's all these kind of things that they didn't see online.
Yeah.
And it forces the viewer to return back to the museum in the same way that the movie theaters are trying to get people to go back to the theater.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's a value in seeing the movie in a movie theater.
Yep.
And there's a value of seeing a painting that's not in a 2-inch square.
Yes.
And like my students asking me when they see something on the screen in the classroom, how much is that worth? There's no way you can tell how good this painting is in this classroom from this screen.
Yeah.
On the screen. The only way to tell how good this painting is to visit the painting in person.
Yes.
You don't levitate from a Rothko when you see it on a 12-inch screen.
Nope.
A 72-inch screen. You only levitate when you stand in person.
Yeah. I did not buy the book at MoMA for that reason. They had a number of them strategically placed, throughout the show.
Yeah.
And they had one laid out with the work that was in front of it. And I was with my daughter. She's 17. And I showed her the picture, and she hadn't seen the actual work yet.
Right.
I said, "Tell me what you think about this." Yeah, it's cool. I like it. And I said, "All right, now look at that."
Right.
And she asked me. She
Right.
said, "Is that even the same? Is that even the
Right.
same thing?" And I said, "No,
Right.
it's
Right.
not. It's not the same
No,
thing.
it's documentation.
Totally, yeah." And the ethereal energy that comes from seeing something in person, the way it was intended to be seen. You talk about film. Have you seen One Battle After Another? The new Paul Thomas Anderson. There might still be time to see it in the theater.
Okay.
If you can, go see it in the theater.
Okay.
So it's a great talk about film. It's a great example of it because he shot it on film that hasn't been produced since, I don't know, the 40s or the 50s. I mean, 50s or 60s. Had to go through an arduous process of collecting all of this film that was just really being collected, by collectors just for the sake of owning it, But the difference between seeing something the way it was intended to be viewed and absorbed is so different than the any digital recreation. You were talking about, I love this. You were talking about, social media, what people see. We were talking about wrestlers before. I don't know why this popped to mind, but you think about actual wrestling or actual fighters, for example. What people see is the fight. They see the bright lights and the, what people don't see is what those athletes have to go through in order to make weight. Right. They don't see the grind. They don't see, a friend of mine, we were talking the other day. He's a gymnast. He toured with Cirque du Soleil for over 10 years all throughout the world.
Oh, wow.
Like he's a proper athlete. So, and he said, I think wrestlers actually fighters in general are the most disciplined athletes that there are. And it's hard to argue when you consider everything they have to do 24 hours a day just to get on that scale to even be able to, step on the mat or enter the ring. But in the art space, it's the grind. It's all of the things that we don't share because they're boring. All that time that we spend, manipulating and playing with the infinite number of variables. How long do I let this dry? Do I let it dry inside or in the sun? The decision tree just keeps expanding and expanding in an infinite.
And that's why I think that abstractionists are the hardest working artists. Whether an abstractionist is making a sculpture or if he's making a painting or he's being conceptual. I think figurative painters, although very talented and necessary, I think that they're not making some of the same decisions that abstractionists are making. Because after you paint I mean, and de Kooning says, all you need is a mouth and a nose, and you have a face. We know what it is at that point.
Yeah.
Make a nose and a mouth, done.
Yeah.
But abstraction, to make really good abstract. Okay, let me separate. Really great abstraction. It takes time. You're not going to become a great abstractionist off of one painting, 10 paintings, 20 paintings. You're getting into 50, 60 paintings before you're becoming a decent abstractionist. Because you really don't know what you're doing at 10.
Sure.
You figured it out at 20. Around 30 and 40, you start going, okay. But I've now, the Dutch wax cloth paintings that I've done, I've now done 60. And I'm now at a point where I'm just like, okay, let me think on these a little bit more. There's some other places to go.
Yeah.
I've learned some new things recently. I thought about maybe letting somebody else make them full wall and seeing what I come up with.
What do you mean by that?
Meaning that, like, having them do the taping, the painting, and then I come in and do the draping.
Yeah.
I do the very end. Because after, my favorite part about letting somebody else do the work sometimes is them messing up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe making the paint too dense, maybe making maybe doing the taping wrong. They may do these other things out of place or wrong or whatever.
Right.
And then I have to come behind and figure out like how to still make it good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did a recent episode on Ursula von Ratingsgard, and one of the things with her process that she talks about is how different members of her staff, of her studio assistants, that work is extremely labor intensive. They're using the circular
Yes, it
saws,
is.
just so many cuts on every
Yeah.
single piece. But she talks about how she will consider which one she has do different portions, because
Right.
she knows that while they're using the same tool on cedar, circular saw on cedar,
Right. They're going to do it differently.
They cut, right? It's gonna be a little
Right.
different. Yeah, it's really interesting. Before we move on, I should mention that the views of our guests do not necessarily reflect the views of Just Make Our Podcast. We love all of our representational artists as well.
I get in trouble because they go, you don't like figurative work. Like, I do like figurative work, but I just feel like after 2,000 years of painting, what are you adding to figurative?
Sure.
I'm not discounting it. It's very valuable. Okay, but how are we going to push it further?
Page 148. I want to stay hungry, lean, always on the edge. Only then does life speak. Life does not speak to those who are comfortable.
Ooh. It does not. It does not. When did you start your journey painting? How old were you? Or making?
I started drawing as a child, and I was very fortunate to have my parents' friend group had two working artists and teachers in it, and they encouraged me from a very young age. They got me lessons with Doug and Julie, and they both had very different styles and approaches to teaching. So that was in my formative years is really when that began to be something that I thought about all the time. And that was one of my many things, growing up. I didn't revisit it, until, I spent the better part of 2 decades in the business space and doing other things. So I hadn't really done much of anything until I came back to it, about 6 years ago. So 2 answers: since I was a child, and what I'm doing now. Since about 2020.
I would say, and that's what it is, right? It's like I was living in my mother's basement after my divorce, and I had 4 kids, and I'm trying to get my life together. And I had a newborn child. And at the time I was living in my mother's basement.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to figure out like what was next. And then I had some work. I used to do audiovisual and I used to tour with it. So I was in Tennessee and I went to this this art
Mm-hmm.
walk. And I saw there's this bishop in Tennessee, I think it was in Nashville, and he did these watercolor abstracts. And when I saw one of those, I said, I could do that. And then I went and I got some water. I went the next day, got some watercolor paint, got some 12-inch watercolor paper, took it back home to Atlanta, and started doing these small gestural paintings. I got some markers so I can do like, I used to draw graffiti as a kid. So I started like creating these small little gesture lines and these kind of patterns that come from breaking apart letters and abstraction. And you can still see them in my work now.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I got back to it, right? I was uncomfortable. I'm in my mother's sewing room, sleeping on her pull-out sofa, trying to figure out what was next in my life. I'm telling you, dude, if I would have saw myself, I would have thought, dude, it is over for you, bro. Like, how can you come back from this?
Yeah.
And painting was my way out. Painting got me out of that room. Painting got me to believe, got me to be hopeful. Painting got me to think about other things besides what was happening traumatically to me and what I was participating in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was to my own detriment, right? So painting was my way out of that thing.
Yeah.
And I say that to say because I was uncomfortable. And in my practice now, if I get too good at something, I have to break it. I have to break it and not start over, but find out where the holes are that needs some other investigations. I always say, and I think I said this to you before. So if you do 10 paintings, right? The first 4 are all the ideas that you came with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now what? You get to 6, you get a hold on it. Okay, so this is what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
You get to 8, you get bored of it. And bored is when you start thinking about other things that you could be doing. And when I say that, I'm talking about like, that's when the questions come. Okay, so I did this and that worked that way. I did this and worked that way. I wonder if I went and did this. And sometimes at 8, I'll go and make a whole other body of work and then come back and do those last 2.
Yeah.
But 8 is an interesting number because it's a number of new beginnings, right? It's a number of reincarnation. It's this number of like shifting. So in that I say that like at 8, you're kind of uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Like you know what you've done, but you're kind of tired of like being so dedicated to this one thing. So you'll go explore some other things, make some other things, and then you'll come back.
Yeah.
And I think you kind of need that. You kind of need that other thing. Even if that other thing is to make like I really like making large works. I love making large pieces.
Yeah.
There's something again, it's that warrior mentality of conquering something that's 20 feet by 20 feet, you know, conceptually.
Yeah.
So sometimes that other thing is just seeing by number 8 or 10, can I make these small?
Mm-hmm.
I'm making them really great at this scale, but can I make it as effective
Yeah.
at 4 by 4,
Right.
3 by 3, 2 by 2?
Yep.
Can they still be as good at 2 by 2 as they are at 20 by 20?
Right.
So you have to make yourself uncomfortable.
Scale can be a gimmick.
Scale can be a gimmick
Yeah.
because there's a lot of things that you can skip over at 20 feet that you can't skip over at 2 feet.
That's right.
But Denzel Washington says ease is the biggest trouble to growth,
Mm-hmm.
the biggest hindrance to growth.
Sure.
Being comfortable will keep you from growing.
Yep. Since we're talking about fighters today or combat sports, I think it was Floyd Mayweather. I could be wrong about this, but said something like it's hard to get up at 4 a.m. when you're sleeping in silk sheets. So how do you stay hungry? How do you stay lean? How do you stay uncomfortable?
Teaching helps me stay uncomfortable. I don't believe in comfort. Most of my friends will tell you, like, if I get too comfortable, I get itchy kind of.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like things to be perfect. I don't need a lot of compliments. I don't dress in a way that's like, I'm not trying to look like everybody looks. I'm not trying to do what everyone does. I'm not trying to, which is my own hindrance. Like, I could have, gone to finish high school and then gone right to college, or gone to military, then go to college. And my spirit just wouldn't let me do it. Mm-hmm. Going to school, it took me 13 years to graduate. I learned French at 44 years old. Comfortable is not, I don't know. If there was a such thing as past lives or whatever, I think I came to this one saying, I want to be as uncomfortable as possible, because most of the things I do are uncomfortable. Being an abstract artist and being an African-American abstract artist, Black abstract artist, I think is extremely uncomfortable, because it's so much easier for me to make figurative work, paint some pictures of Muhammad Ali, and, and everybody loves me and I sell. But to do the kind of conceptual aspirations that I'm working through, hoping that someone else can get it too, and then spend an exorbitant amount of money in order to support my practice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I live an uncomfortable life.
Yeah,
I am encouraged when people purchase things. I'm encouraged when I receive residencies from places that I really want to be. I'm encouraged by, teaching, but in teaching, what makes it uncomfortable is I change my lesson plans up probably about every 3 years or so. Well, I go through and I revamp all the artists. I've discovered new artists. I'm thinking about new artists. And because I revamp all the artists, not only is that for the students, that means that I also have to go back and study all these artists. Right. I have to dwell into their practice. And the students are then asking me questions about these artists, and ask me questions about their process. They ask me questions about how much something costs. During my residencies, like if I drive to New York for residency, I'm stopping at the MoMA to go see a show. I'm stopping at the Baltimore Museum of Art to see a show. If I drive anywhere, whenever I go vacation somewhere, I go to a museum.
Yeah.
So those are kind of things that keep me, because, you would think that if you go to a museum, you're going to see the same work from state to state, but you don't. You see local artists, people who people are thinking about locally.
Yeah.
Then they have to satisfy what people are thinking about nationally. Then they have to satisfy what people are thinking about internationally. But what's the most interesting is finding out who that gallery selected locally that they think is important. Mm-hmm. And then you learn something new. And then sometimes that person gets put into my curriculum. I learned Winslow Homer by going to the Met. I hadn't heard of him really before, but the paintings were so gorgeous. They were beautiful.
Yeah.
That I had to add them to my curriculum. Mm-hmm. So like those are ways that I stay uncomfortable, and then I have to kind of like wrestle with their practice. And then I come home and then I have to wrestle with, they end up standing in the room with me. Okay, so what are you going to do? You saw the painting, now what? Mm-hmm. sometimes I think that I'm Rothko's abandoned child because he died the same year that I was born. And I think he actually died like maybe a month or two before I was born. So I'm just like, am I Rothko reincarnated to live this life of pain? Trying to figure out these paintings.
Thankfully, you may have already outlived him. I'm not sure.
Right, yeah. You know, I was talking to a friend of mine, Halima Taha, and she's she hung around a lot of these African American abstractionists, and I was talking to her about Joe Overstreet, and she said, and I was asking her about like his practice and what she thought or whatever. She goes, and sometimes he would just get really frustrated with a painting, and you'll ask him like, "How's your practice going? How's that painting?" He's like, "Man, forget that painting. Let's talk about something else. I don't want to talk about that painting." You know, and I get that. You know, you get so frustrated with it that you kind of.
I'm going to read the part of this quote that we just read that precedes it, because it speaks to something you just said about Overstreet. That painting, assertion 1, I've been looking at it for hours, every day, every night. It's trying to tell me something. I have truly done something significant. I love this painting. I must wait and continue to look at it before starting another painting. I don't have that experience very often. Very rarely. I have had it. But it's
so when you're finished for the day, what do you do? Like when everything's wet and it's time to like pack it up for the day, how much time do you spend in the studio after that?
Oh, none. Like 0.
Really?
Yeah. No, the time I'm always working until I am about to fall over, or I'm mentally or physically and or spiritually exhausted. Yeah.
And then you directly leave the studio.
Yeah. Because the time that I spend with the work is the next day. I have to look at it with fresh eyes.
Okay.
Have to have fresh eyes for me. I mean, if very rarely do I do something and be like, that's it. If I have that experience, it's not until the next day, or in many cases, days or weeks later. You?
I generally, I'll go through and photograph everything. I take pictures of everything in their stages most of the time. And then I sit in the studio with the work probably about a good hour and a half. It's kind of like after you work out, you know, and then you go to the sauna or you go to the whirlpool, to the steam room or whatever. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like I have to calm down before I leave.
Yeah.
Because I'm so high.
Yeah.
And I am exhausted. I am spent. But I need to come down because I'm ramped up. And my studio is not as big as I like it to be, because I could probably do 10 paintings at the same time if I had the space. And I like that pace. I like that. To me, that's, if I had the kind of studio I wanted, then I would have different rooms that I can go from room to room to room to room to room.
Yep.
I don't really get, like, I was about Muhammad Ali, they called him a gym rat. I am a studio rat.
Yeah.
Or a studio cat. Like I would go from room to room to room. During COVID, I literally spent 12 to 13 hours in the studio. Just getting it right. Yep. Go out, get something to eat, things dry, come back, get to it.
Yeah.
You know, just trying to figure it out. Just trying to make it do that thing.
Yeah, I'm thinking, to give you a better answer to your question before, my cadence is usually one of the first portion of the day is the sitting, the listening, the considering.
Right.
And then most days sort of end in this crescendo of activity.
Right.
I probably should try to find a way to have that cool down period, you know, to decompress.
I take the photos of the work so I can, like when I'm at home, I can look over what I've done.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes, like, because I mean, with teaching and everything, sometimes I can't go to the studio the next day.
Sure.
Or, you know, you have family, you got to deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, while you're waiting on them or you're eating at the restaurant with them, you're kind of going through your phone.
Yeah.
And I'm sometimes looking at those, marinating.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way, when I get back in the studio, I may sit around, like you said, and look and listen and pay attention. But oftentimes, what's really great is by having pictures of things, then I'm listening on the phone. I'm listening while I'm looking. And then it will tell me, you know, I need some blue, right? I need some
Right.
blue right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, right there, that area needs to be blocked off. You need to subtract some stuff over there. Or I need more of the same color, like right in the same space, which is often challenging for me because I make all my color. So I never use straight out the tube.
Right.
So like sometimes when that color's gone, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So then I have to figure it out, which I love. I love the challenge of sometimes trying to remake that color because oftentimes I don't know how I made that color.
Yeah. We could do this for 4 more hours.
Oh yeah, easily.
I would like to
And
when you come
hopefully
back.
you and I will.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't have to record it to still do this, but I would definitely like to on camera invite you to come
So
back.
maybe when I finish the book, then
Sure.
we can come back and do it again, do a part 2. I want to ask you one question because you've asked me a lot of questions.
Sure.
Why should we love abstraction? What is it that makes abstraction great to you?
I'll answer the second question. I don't make it my business to speak for the we. It's infinite possibility. It's infinite possibility. You spoke earlier about when people see the cat or the fill in the blank. Oh, there's a face in there. Doggone it.
Right. How that happened?
There won't
How
be
come I
tomorrow.
didn't see that? Right.
There won't be tomorrow.
Exactly.
What I love about, I mean, I think we're all making the type of work that we want, that we enjoy the most, hopefully. You know, I'm making the work that I want to spend time with. So when you think about, you know, our influences and the artists who really move us, you know, the way that we've been talking about so far today, I will always be, until, you know, my last day in the studio, whenever that happens to be, I will always be chasing that. First and foremost, for an audience of one, do I love this? Does this move me?
Mm-hmm.
And that will keep me going for, you know, however much more time, you know, that any of us get. I just, it's that idea of discovery. You know, you use that word excavating earlier, discovering what is there, but can't yet be seen. That to me is the power of abstraction, and the fact that once the audience expands, you know, from just us, that 100 people can have 100 different interpretations and experiences with the work. That's it. That's it.
Yeah. For me, I believe that figurative representation of work is an exterior experience of the artist.
Sure.
I believe that abstraction is the interior experience of the artist.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that abstraction is vulnerable, and abstraction challenges the viewer.
Yeah.
Because in a world where everything is speeding past us, abstraction forces the viewer to slow down and to experience the work. And when they experience the work, I believe that they'll be able to unlock something in themselves. That's what I hope.
I don't want to land the plane, but that feels like a good place to land it for today.
Yeah.
Jamele, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
I so appreciate
my pleasure.
Your friendship, your guidance, your influence on me is significant, and the fact that we get to do this and share it with others is fantastic. So please, let's definitely do this again.
That'd be great. All right. You take care. Have a good day.
You too, brother. Be well.
Bye-bye.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Ty and I talk about this all the time, but it's our responsibility as artists to surround ourselves with other artists just to talk about art. And so, I mean, just thinking about this conversation, like I've spent so much time reading this book, absorbing it, reflecting on it, and there were still numerous times during these conversations with Jamele that just opened up a completely new way of thinking about Jack's life, his work, and his practice. So do that. Go find other artists to commune with, form a coven, like Jerry says, and we'll all be better for it. All right. Thanks for joining us for today's episode, and please join us next time for whatever we talk about in our next episode of Just Make Art.